Well, hello again. It is your lovely Ticketmaster. And guess what, guys? We have reached 100 subscribers! Phew. But I'm here, of course, to sort of do a part two to my OC video. God, it's been such a long time since I made that. As I said before, my video will be unscripted and it's just me going on about what the topic is for now. And that topic is about writing and my own personal experience. Now, note, I am not a professional. I'm not someone you can really look to for advice because I, just like everybody else, is going to make writing mistakes. So, for this video, I will be talking about my 3 current stories I am currently working on, as well as mentioning the stories that I have stopped working on. God. Also, if you do like this video and want to see more, please do hit that like and subscribe. It really helps. Gets me out into the algorithm to have more people see my lovely self and, just listen to me ramble for like, what, 10, 15 minutes? I don't know. So, let's get right into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Software Migration, which is my current ongoing story that I'm trying to turn into a show. I have a Discord for that, and if you want to take part in it, I can always link it. Now, the story follows a group of AI inside your laptop. Yes, your laptop. But they get kicked out by a rogue virus, and not only do they have to figure out a way home, they have to learn how to live as a human just to survive. I'll be honest, this story has technically been in the works for the past 4 years. And since late 2023, I actually started working on it. I made the Discord server for my team and for the work progress in May of last year. And since then, we've really made some progress. We got all the voice actors, we got concepts starting, and in the official channel, we do have our first theme song, our first official soundtrack. Well, first song for the soundtrack. At least for now. I really love the fact that I managed to get a team to help me actually make this into a story. But I want to talk about the process of writing this. Back when I first made them in 2021, I wasn't the best at making character designs. I was getting somewhere, but they still weren't good, like super good. And the original title for it was called The Streaming of the Discord Web. Eesh, what a mouthful. And I was just trying to get back into writing since I have been bullied for it in the past, and during the time of making them, I was again bullied, but now it was by people I cared about. The writing process was as thus. I would make the plot idea, like I start with the theme, like the synopsis, then I figure out what was point A and then figure out point B. I knew how it started and ended, I just could never figure out how to get from point A to point B. No matter how many English classes I take, no matter how much I learned about how to make a plot, my neurodivergent brain was like, nuh-uh, you don't know how to do this. We're just gonna make your brain confused with what's in the middle. It's like trying to make a sandwich while all you got is bread. I finally managed to create a plot with the help of my team when we first started, and I, again, could not be more thankful. The story goes as thus. Of course, the pilot is like the beginning. They're going around learning different ways of human life and also making connections amongst each other, especially the main couple, Diesel and Malibu. Also, the virus did keep a couple of the characters, so we're also going to see the dynamic between them three. And yes, they do figure out how to live, but guess what? I'm not going to spoil any more than that because it's going to be a show. I don't want to spoil the whole plot. Just also, Again, shameless plug. You should totally join the Discord server. Watch us get into our business, and also, show us support. Donate. I don't know what I'm saying. But I think this story honestly was the hardest one to work on and stick to, as I have made so many more stories before this one. This one just happened to be the one with the second least amount of characters, a decent storyline that people would actually be interested in. I made it a vote amongst my friends, like, hey, which one do you think would be the best one? And it really took a lot out of me. I would definitely get burnt out from just trying to figure out how to write these characters. I've developed a show Bible which needs to be finished, but like I have this Discord server for that. I don't know much to say about this writing process other than it was really hard to handle. It was really like tough to just get through the first few months of trying to figure the story out. Once I had the story in mind, all I had to do was just work on writing it. I wrote the pilot for the story of the show by myself, and I was just sitting there sometimes for like an hour or so, just kind of like, okay, what do I want to write them doing next? How do I make this pilot feel like it could be its standalone thing with an open ending? So that's what I did. I made sure to not rush everyone into knowing all 8 characters. I just made it feel more natural. It's like, all right, I'm going to establish these are the main characters. They're going to be here, here, and here. And we got our antagonist. That's going to show up this. I am going to give a tip about writing is to not overwhelm your audience with a shit ton of characters from the get-go. The pilot I'm planning is going to be 20 minutes, and I sort of figured out how to allow room to introduce all 8 characters. You get to meet them like 2 or 3 at a time. Definitely try to pace your story because this story is going to take place over the pilot plus 2 seasons, and each season is going to be 8 episodes. I made sure to write out like the general idea of each episode, so then we can sort of write it as if each their own story. But at least they'll reference like the past episodes. They all have to connect together and flow, or else it's just gonna be all over the place. Not not nudging at a certain indie development that takes place in a certain realm. But honestly, out of all the stories I've written, I would say that this was the hardest but my most favorite to work on. Forest Land was another story I was working on, but had to be put on pause. It was going to be a Roblox game that was a fantasy turn-based RPG, and it followed a group of high schoolers, of course. I was gonna have it be like a Final Fantasy meets Scooby Doo, and it was about tales of friendship, finding your true self, not needing to put up walls to just try and keep yourself safe. Try and put trust in others. This one, I actually managed to write on my own. I didn't really need help. I just thought of the plot, put it in like acts, like a play, and I just sort of went with it. I did ask the team I had at the time. They thought of it, and we made some changes to it. And I would say for this one, you can't only think about how it would read as a story. It's not just a story. You're gonna see sequence of events. You're acting it out in the game. So instead of seeing it as like a book, you have to see it as a play. You had your acts. You had your stage movements. You had your general like direction. Also, there's going to be action sequences, of course, because it's a game. You're gonna have to fight bosses and such. So you have to make sure that that was written in. I feel like that this was my more comfortable style of writing. I don't know. There's really not much to talk about this one, but I will say that I had a lot of fun creating these characters, and it was more of like the first time I actually tried to be more in depth with the characters so it can be represented in the game. Because yeah, you're gonna be in like their family lives, you're gonna see their backstory, so it would make more sense to like look up what is their cultural background of their ethnicity, what lifestyles that they lived. So, we had to do all the modeling, the lighting, all that stuff, creating items as well, how they speak, how they act. It's a bit harder to do, in my opinion, when it comes from doing a show to doing a game. Like, it's not just you see them be this way. It's not that you just see them animated and then you can just move on. In a game, you're gonna see their behavior repeatedly. Man, you guys to say that in the show too, but I don't know. I am not a professional, as I said, but I will say that this one had me really thinking about visual representation that sticks around often. So you think like in a show, you're like, oh, let's show this for a bit, and then it's like one and done. But I think for games, it's different. I mean, you know, these characters, I also had to figure out how to portray them as, high schoolers. I didn't want to fall into the typical high school stereotypes, but that's exactly what I did. But I played off of it. Usually you got the nerdy kid who's anxious about everything, and then his parents are also nerds, stuff like that. I decided to take it a step further and just make the parents opposite of what the child was. Yes, these were children. They were like 16, 17. Yeah, it did make them close to being an adult because, I'm an adult myself, so I resonate more with that. But then I also sort of went off my own experiences and who also had their own experiences in high school. We had Clover. He was the angry one, and usually, especially someone who has anger problems and being violent with not good parents back at home. But his parents were the most lovely people you could ever imagine. The other character, Sapphire, she's really quiet and she's very reserved. Usually, they come from like reserved families, but no, her parents are very outgoing. They're very lively. We had Ivory. She's like really into the dark arts and all goth, like Wednesday vibes from the Addams family. But her parents are just straight up hippies, all colorful and everything. And with Javi, he's the nerd. He's super smart, and usually they come from super smart parents. But his parents are not the brightest. I I really was looking forward to making this game as I have so many characters sitting in Roblox. So I just like, hey, what if I actually did something with them and make a game? But it unfortunately had to be canceled until further notice because of certain situation involving a very popular YouTuber who has caught, I believe, 6 predators and put them all in jail. Yeah, if you know, you know. I'm not gonna touch on that. So since that happened, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can really do that. I may bring it back because, hey, it was. I still play Roblox despite everything, so I feel like it was just being a major hypocrite. But on the other hand, as well, I had more fun working on my show than working on the game. But this is about writing. Honestly, my writing experience for Porcelain, I think, was the best out of the three. It was a little less of a hassle to work on. And if I could actually make a game and do something similar to that, I 100% would. Crossfairs is a currently unfinished story that, of course, I'm still developing, and it again involves Roblox, but it also may become a show in the future. I've asked the other people who are involved in this, and so far it's been thumbs up. Crossfairs, again, is another like high school story, but this time they're almost all adults. They're in a struggling town and just trying to make it out by graduating. but something really, really unexpected happens. One can pass between life and death, and they think that they can use this to their advantage. Honestly, I'm having a lot of fun trying to write this, but I'm still stuck on chapter 2. My friends, we're gonna call them C, K, and S. We're all working on this story. I'm mainly the writer that they provided the characters. My character is Devante, who's also the person who can traverse between life and death. Don't worry, I asked him about this and they're like, that's cool. C created the character Arrow, K created the character Vex, and S created the character Casper. There's, there's a lot going on in the story. It's kind of hard to sort of write out as it's like, oh, unexpected plot point thing comes in and they try to use it, but can they really use it to help the plot? It's a mix of Night in the Woods, Earth to Echo, The Eighth Day. I think that's the book title called. I don't remember. But it's just a mix of things I used to be inspired by, and I'm just trying to figure out how to put this all together. As I stated earlier in the video, how it was hard for me to go from point A to point B, this is that example. I have an idea of point A, and I wrote that out. That was chapter 1. I'm struggling to even figure out point B as I'm just writing this along. I did discuss with them like the whole plot of the story, or so just like a general idea, but I think I need to further write on the actual plot itself. I'm trying to reach back into my roots of writing, and I do see where I went wrong, and I think I'm starting to continue to do said things that went wrong. But so far, I really, really love the story to just write on when I'm not working on my show or when I don't have really much anything to do or what I don't think about doing. I think it just allows me to have a little bit of breathing room, and when I write it out, I give it to my other contributors and see what they think of it. At least at that point, they're the ones who I really care about their opinion on the story, as you know, they're the ones to help me create the story. They added the characters, and we all agreed, like, yeah, this could be a story. On the top of it being a show, I'm only gonna work on this after I get my show at least somewhat into the first season. So that's gonna be a while. They think it has show potential. I definitely do. Also, this does also play into Wendell and Wild with how I want this to look. The girl, I forgot her name. Yeah, I don't remember her name. But how she activates her powers is like she has a mouth on the back of her hand, so she covers her mouth with it. He's gonna have a pair of eyes on the back of his hand, so he just covers his eyes. You can cover just one eye to partially see into it, like see ghosts and such. Oh yeah, there's a touch of paranormal in this too. So this also kind of shows. I'm gonna talk about this just for a little bit while I'm discussing this story. That this is why people say nothing is really original, because we get inspired from so many things. I think I named like what 5, 6 things that inspired me to help write this story for the Crossfaders. I truly don't understand people's point where you just have to be original. You just have to come up with your own thing, or else no one's gonna like it. That's also like something I really disagree with, because not only do we get inspired by like other stories, we get inspired by ourselves. We get inspired by the people around us. Like writing this story, it's all the characters are also inspired by our own experiences, by our own feelings, what we've gone through. I honestly did not have a good time in high school, and I'm sort of putting my experience of my home life and my high school experience onto Devante. He's just really rowdy and wild guy just to try and manage people's image of him so he didn't have to worry about any unknown opinion about him. Sounds like a certain character from a certain circus. But aside from that, this one, it's not my favorite. It's like a tie, it's close second with writing software migration. The story is really going to hold a good piece in my heart because I'm not just making this by myself. I'm also getting the opinions and the contributions from my friends, the three who added their own characters. I do think that a collaborative writing thing could really benefit for like a friend thing. Like, oh, let's just come up with a story together, like a group activity. I think it's something that's worth a try. But I also think that this story could possibly go somewhere in the future if I ever finish it. Now, I said I was going to mention like the other stories that I stopped working on, and so I'm going to do that and give you just a little synopsis for each of them. So start out with one called Unnamed Story. A story about a man looking for a job with his disabilities, a father doing his best to provide his daughter, a child in a broken home, and a girl who learns reality the hard way. Toxic Love. Basic summary is a Rory wants to live a long life despite their physical condition. The friends come with them on a vacation during fall break in college, as well as a new girl tagging along. One does not like this at all. Clamshire Cafe. Stan, a lone fishing captain, falls in love with a cafe owner at first sight after being saved by him. He wants to readapt to society and try to win his heart, but his anxiety of breaking his self-promise and not eating fish is getting in the way. 500 subjects. Cake gets kidnapped after a phony job offer. He wants to escape with a few other captors, but they must make it through maximum security, high walls, and the head scientist himself. Luca in the Book of Wonder. Luca wants to help a museum owner collect an ancient magic book. He struggles because of his limited travel, so he gets the help of his friends to make it through. Whitaker Street. Harmony goes into a new town and wants to run a successful business and befriend fellow merchants. He finds it difficult as the reality of bills, finances, and stranger danger settles in. Ragtag Roadshow. A young musician, Cosmo, wants to make it to the top of the industry, but many people on both sides will try to deter him from his dreams. And a day in the park. Monarch, River, Vetus, and Lullaby go to the park to enjoy their time together before Vetus leaves for hell. They can't as hijinks ensue. Honestly, my favorite out of them all is most likely Whitaker Street. Is Whitaker Street, Luke in the Book of Wonder, and Ragtag Roadshow. I used to draw those characters a lot, but then I also started getting into Unnamed Story. I might pick these up at a later date. I might just draw the characters as well. Who knows? Anyway, that's all I got for now, and I hope everybody stays comfy. Until next time.